Hi everyone, thank you for being here. It's actually a very quiet space to have a panel, so that's interesting. I'm Alex, I work on the Aptos ecosystem, and I'm going to let the two people who actually matter on this panel introduce themselves. Can you guys give me a one-liner about your company and one metric that matters?
Is there one metric that matters? Okay.
Give me a one-liner and a one metric that matters.
Yeah. So, Myco is a Web3 video streaming platform. We believe that we're the largest in the world. We are trying to decentralize the media streaming business. Currently, we are at 22 million users, and hopefully, we're going to move all of them on chain. That's the one liner. And the metric that really matters is unique users. Unlike, trade volume, which is usually the metric that Web3 companies evaluate them on. In my perspective, it is just unique users that matter.
All right. Hi everyone. My name is Ishank. We are building KJN. So KJN is a verified distribution protocol, and essentially, I think our scale is very similar to Myco's. We are about 21 million users spread over the global south, and the one metric that matters is the percentage of verified users out of the total network.
What's the number for Cajun?
Good question. The number for KJN is close to about 5 million right now.
Okay, so as you guys understood, we're talking consumer-facing applications today. The first question I have for you guys is, what do you believe is one metric, because we were just talking about this, that matters the most in reflecting the health of a consumer-facing protocol? And what about a blockchain?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, it is unique transactions and not the number of transactions, because if it's the same people that are making those transactions, it does not matter. And I think the biggest problem facing the Web3 industry is that, we're trying to offer a bunch of products and services to the same set of people. And this has been the case for the past decade now. And ultimately, what's going to happen is unique transactions are going to matter. How do you actually create adoption and how do you build scale? In my opinion, that's going to come through consumer dApps. And the unfortunate reality is that the industry is not focusing enough on consumer dApps. But I guess we'll talk about that later.
So, I actually come from a consumer community background. I've been building consumer businesses before getting into Web3 for the last 15 years as well. And I think we actually don't need to reinvent. And it's very similar to what our friend is saying. What matters for consumer applications is retention. And retention is sort of the holy grail to tell you the health of whether any consumer application is doing well or not. And if you had to be more on chain, I would say what you could look at is the monthly active users to the total users that are transacting on chain, or the ratio of daily active to monthly active, right? There are various surrogate metrics you can use, but ultimately it boils down to retention.
We call it the DAO.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. What I love the most about people is opinions, and I would much rather have a conversation with people that have opinions that I disagree with, as opposed to people who don't have opinions. So we're gonna go into a panel that's based on agree, disagree, true, false, hot takes type of situation. Let's go with the first one. Most consumers don't actually care about decentralization. True or false, Humor? We're gonna start with you.
True. 100% true.
I will add to that. I will say most consumers don't give a fuck about which chain they're on. I mean, ultimately, I don't think consumers should even know they're on chain. So, decentralization, I don't know what you mean by that.
What is it even? Are we on chain? What is that?
No, I mean, on a very serious note, right? I mean, do you really care what app you're using? What is the underlying tech behind the app? Or do you care about what purpose the app is solving in your life, right? Similarly, for on chain applications, with all due respect, we are building one ourselves, right? But we don't want to sit and educate people about the benefits of one chain versus the other. It's on us to figure out which chain we prefer. And we use that chain at the back end. And for the consumer, the app or the project needs to serve a purpose.
But I'll just add to that see, we are blaming consumers, that consumers don't really care about decentralization, but it is driven by the leaders in this industry, because the leaders in this industry also, most of them don't care about decentralization. They only care about the money that they're making. That's the most unfortunate, but the reality, but the truth that exists in this industry. And the moment the industry is actually true to the cause of decentralization is where the consumers will also start understanding how decentralization is going to change their lives. But it has to start with us.
There's your hot take.
Yeah, I think that's good. But that actually leads me to another question that I didn't initially plan, is then why are people trying to put Web3 into consumer-facing applications in that case?
Because so many consumer facing businesses, I will talk about media because obviously that is my forte. They have a true capability to be disrupted, completely disrupted with decentralization and Web3. And if I don't know if I have 2 minutes because I know this is like quick fire.
Do it.
But if you talk about the media business right now, there are three stakeholders in this business. One is the viewer, which is the consumer. The viewer cannot monetize their consumption. They are being treated as a commodity in the current model. And these new consumers, they don't want to be the commodity. They actually want to be the product, right? And similarly, advertisers in the media industry, there's like so many advertisers that are supporting almost 5 billion users globally on video streaming. These advertisers today are paying for an audience which is not captive. When was the last time you guys paid attention to an ad that came to your screen? Probably not, right? So the model is broken. The model can be fixed with Web3 because once you create loyalty, once you create a platform that is built on Web3 metrics and the consumers are loyal to the platform, that means the consumers will be paying attention to that advertising impression, which right now is not valuable. So there is a real disruption to be done there. And similarly, content creators, within the media business, obviously the third stakeholder is the people who are making content or anyone who's looking for a share within the attention economy. These guys have high barriers to entry. If you're a content creator or a filmmaker or a producer or even an athlete, there's no access to funding in a centralized world. And all of this. So, like I'm giving an example of media. There's so many other use cases. Yes, decentralization and Web3 can disrupt industries, but the people within Web3 and blockchain and crypto need to be loyal towards that cause, which they are not right now. They're only loyal towards money.
Yeah, I mean, he covered most of it. But I think the difference in your question is we are saying that consumers don't need to care, which does not imply that blockchain doesn't have a role to play. So, blockchain still has a role to play for consumer applications. A lot of benefits he already spoke about. And in the interest of time, I'll skip those. But it does not imply that consumers need to know they're on chain. That's the small nuance, I guess.
Agree. Love a seamless interaction with the blockchain for sure. Second one will be most consumer Web3 applications today look and feel like 90s internet startups. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Disagree.
Give me an example aside from your own.
KGen. No, but on a serious note, right? What you can see with let's take use cases, right? Let's talk about the movement of stable coins, right? A lot of that is actually way better than what's happening in 2025 Web 2. If you really think about it, we have a beautiful use case. I think what Aptos is the presenter of this panel. So Aptos calls itself the transaction machine or the global global trading engine. And I mean, that's another use case, right? Of a lot of benefits of cross-border transactions. Earlier, me sending money to my business school friends in the US was a 3-day process. Now I can just send it to them in one of their wallets, right? Maybe on Aptos, but ultimately that's one example.
Yeah, I think completely disagree because when the internet revolution or the Web 1 revolution came in,
I hope with the question, right? Not with what I said.
No, with the question, yeah. And then, at that point in time, companies were actually striving to engage with users. That was the biggest challenge. How are you going to engage with a user, right? In a Web 1 or a Web 2 world. Now it's about empowering your entire ecosystem, all your stakeholders. So yes, like there's a lot of progress. And I think my opinion is very different, compared to a lot of people that are building in Web3. I truly believe that disruption and scale within Web3 is going to come from leaders and entities and founders that have actually built Web2 businesses. It's not going to come from people who are Web3 native. And you will see this happen in the next 5 years. I don't think I need to prove myself because time will prove this.
That's something that I've been hearing a lot, that the disruption in terms of applications will come from people who have been, very strong builders in Web 2 coming into Web 3. So that's interesting. I'm looking forward to see that happen. Let's talk a little bit about tokens. Tokens are basically, token incentives are paid users and not real attractions. Agree or disagree?
Partially disagree. But therefore, it also implies I partially agree. right? I guess it depends on what is the definition of the user for your protocol or for your project that you're going after, right? If you're going after speculators, it could actually bootstrap liquidity for you, right? However, if you're going after functional utility for your own company or your project, it is exactly what you said, right? Those users may not be the ones that get retained. Going back to your first question, what is sort of the holy grail for a consumer application, right? Retention is. So maybe they will just stick around during the period the rewards are active and then they will disappear later on. So it's a function of who you're building for. And once you have full clarity on who you're building for, you can actually use token incentives to your advantage.
So it's very simple. Partially agree, partially disagree. And I have a lot of friends who actually build in Web3 gaming. But the biggest example I will give is of play to earn. You're basically minting tokens just to reward people. That's not real. It's never going to work, right? So if that is a model where there's no underlying revenue, there's no real business, there's no real consumer, I think one of the ways that I like to look at Web3 use cases is, would this work in a Web2 environment? Because the Web3 layer always needs to be an incremental value layer. It needs to be a decentralization layer at the infrastructure level. But you need to see whether with Web3 ethos and a vision, will this business or will this utility actually work in a Web2 environment? And which is what we've done with Myco over the past 3.5, 4 years. We've built an ecosystem which right now rewards. So in the past 6 months, we've paid out 30 million micro payment rewards to people for engaging with content on our platform. And guess what? All of these rewards are fiat. None of them is in crypto. So now when we're going to have our crypto, hopefully later on the Aptos blockchain, Avery is sitting here, it's going to be real because people have already seen those rewards come into their traditional wallets. And now when you tell them, hey, by the way, you were making $1 by watching content on Myco for the past 6 months, now you might make $1.5 if you actually choose to do so on the Aptos blockchain. People are going to believe it, and it's real, right? So yeah, I tried to answer my question.
So partially yes, partially no. I think it very much depends on the nature, like as you mentioned, of the application for sure. What is the dumbest so-called innovation that you have seen pitched in consumer crypto?
I've already answered. Play to earn
Play to earn is the one.
is the dumbest.
Wow, this video will get views. That's what you wanted, right?
Listen, attention is currency, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very tough to pinpoint one, right? Because there are a lot of features that tend to be dumb, but ultimately it typically boils down to that thing, right? Where you are building something for audience X, but you're using incentives that work for audience Y, and so on, right? So most things are conceptually not dumb. People just make them dumb during the execution phase.
I think when it comes to rewards, and again, this also goes back to the previous question, is you need to ask whether the rewards can work without the token as well, without the utility token. That's very, very important, because if the rewards are only working because you have the capability to issue a utility token and mint more and more, then that's not real. It's just a corporate pinnacle scheme or a Ponzi scheme, and it will go up and ultimately it's going to come down because there is no underlying economy to it. So you need to have an underlying economy. And I think the biggest barometer there is to check whether it's going to work without the utility token or not.
Agreed. So basically, are your users coming because what you are doing is genuinely great as an experience, as a utility, as opposed to just potentially
They need to
making
come
the
for the
buck?
core product, right?
I think version of what he's saying that we use at Cajun is, if we were to disappear tomorrow, would somebody care? I think that's sort of the question we keep asking ourselves. And whenever there is a new product feature that people talk about, or when we meet teams within our own ecosystem who want to pitch to us a new idea or a new project, that's sort of the lens we try and apply as part of our investment committee decision as well, right? If this was to not exist, would somebody care?
So we were actually asked this question by a few investors, in our journey, that are you a watch to earn video streaming platform, right? And Hani is sitting here. Actually, Hani is the guy who came up with the term, and he said, no, it's not watch to earn, it's watch and earn, right? Because he was like, and again, we all agree, because if you're saying come watch because you're gonna make money, you're saying my content is shit. No one cares. If you can give them the same cricket, the same English Premier League, the same Shark Tank, content that people really want to watch. And then you tell them that, hey, we also have a rewards layer for your loyalty. And then we're trying to build an infrastructure layer on chain, which is going to be better for all stakeholders. That's something real. That's disruption, right? So, yeah, anything that says two, you know, is
Is a no. It's dumb.
is dumb and is Ponzi.
Remember that. I
Wow.
will. Now he's rethinking the marketing side.
You said we have to be direct. Those
Oh,
were the
please
instructions.
do. Yes, I need authenticity and rawness in this space. We're coming to an end, so can you guys please tell us where can people find you and what can they expect next?
So on all three app stores, the Apple Store, the Play Store, on the Huawei Play Store, on your mobiles, on our web as well, myco.io. It's very simple. And then on smart TVs, we actually just last week we launched our Samsung Smart TV app. Before this, we were on all smart TV Play stores, the Android Play stores as well. So yeah.
Yep. You can find Cajun on web, iOS, Android, wherever you want to look. Please search for Cajun and you will find us.
Obviously, also Twitter. Let's
Oh,
not
yeah,
forget
yeah.
crypto
Of course.
Twitter.
Goes without saying. All of the social media. Yes, we are on crypto Twitter. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you guys for your
Thank you.
opinions here today, and it's all happening on Aptos.
Right. Thank you.